November 12th, 1966, five gravediggers, Kenneth Duncan, Robert Love, William Poole, Andrew Godby, and Emil Conley, worked late in a cemetery near Clendenin, West Virginia. Suddenly, overhead in the trees, they saw something dark and winged, a humanoid figure, perhaps 6 or 7 feet tall, with wings extending above them. It rose and vanished into the night. 3 nights later, November 15th, 1966, two couples from Point Pleasant, Roger and Linda Scarberry, and Steve and Mary, drove near the abandoned TNT area, a former munitions site outside town. Their headlights caught 2 burning red eyes. They saw a creature, gray and muscular, with massive wings. Linda Scarberry reported that its eyes glowed like bicycle reflectors. The being lifted off, flew after their car, making a shrill screech, matching them as they sped toward Point Pleasant. News spread. The next evening, November 16th, 1966, volunteer firefighters and other locals reported similar sightings around the TNT area. A large bird with red eyes. Other reports poured in. On November 26, 1966, Ruth Foster of St. Albans claimed to see a winged dark figure, red eyes glaring, perched atop a rooftop. In late November, Marvin Schock, driving near Cat Creek in Ohio, witnessed a winged humanoid hovering low over their truck. By December, sightings concentrated near the Silver Bridge spanning the Ohio River between Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and Gallipolis, Ohio. On December 6, 1966, Ruth Foster again claimed to see the creature on the bridge itself, standing motionless, bathed in shadow. On December 11th, Charles Morton and others saw it flying low over the bridge, its presence announced by a piercing shriek. Throughout the months that followed, over 100 reported sightings occurred in and around Point Pleasant. Witnesses described a tall, winged humanoid hovering without flapping wings, often accompanied by an overwhelming sense of dread. Then, on December 15, 1967, at 5:04 p.m., disaster struck. The Silver Bridge failed during rush hour. A single eye-bar gave way, and the structure collapsed into the cold Ohio River. 46 lives were lost. In the days and hours beforehand, several witnesses reported seeing Mothman again, perched on the bridge railings, hovering low or circling overhead. Some locals later speculated the creature was more than a phantom, a warning that went unheeded. After the collapse, sightings dropped sharply. The creature seemed to vanish into the fabric of lore. No one was ever physically harmed by a direct encounter, but the psychological impact was real. Witnesses spoke of nightmares, dread, and knowing something was wrong. Journalist Mary Heyer, who interviewed many, admitted experiencing dreams, visions of people drowning, floating gifts, water where land should be. To this day, Point Pleasant memorializes its dark visitor. A life-size statue stands in the town square. An annual festival draws thousands, but no conclusive explanation has ever emerged. Some propose misidentified birds. Others believe Mothman was a supernatural, a cryptid tied to the bridge's doom. If you drive late along Route 62, glance toward the river, toward the skeletal remains of that collapsed span. Perhaps you'll feel it. 2 red lights glowing in darkness, wings that shift in silence, a presence at the edge of your vision. Because whatever it was, Mothman left more than stories behind. It left a warning and a tragedy that still haunts. On the evening of September 12, 1952, in the small town of Flatwoods, West Virginia, a fiery object streaked across the sky. Witnesses described it as a glowing ball of light, trailing sparks before descending into the hills near the property of G. Fisher. Several local boys, Edward, Freddie, and Tommy, saw the object fall. Alarmed and curious, they ran to the home of the May brothers and told their mother, Kathleen, what they had seen. Kathleen agreed to investigate. Along the way, they were joined by Neil, Ronnie, and Eugene, a West Virginia National Guardsman. Even the family dog followed. As the group climbed the hillside toward the reported crash site, they noticed a strange odor in the air. Witnesses later described it as metallic and suffocating. Some compared it to burning sulfur. Their eyes watered and their throats burned. At the top of the hill, they saw a pulsating red light glowing through the trees. Gene raised his flashlight toward the source. What the beam revealed would become one of the most infamous cryptid encounters in American history. Standing in the shadows was a towering figure, estimated at 10 feet tall. Its face was described as round and blood red, with eyes that glowed like burning coals. Around its head was a hood, shaped like the ace of spades. Its body appeared dark and metallic, with vertical folds resembling draped fabric. Witnesses said it had small claw-like hands that extended in front of it. When the light struck its face, the creature emitted a hissing sound, sharp and mechanical, like steam escaping from a pipe. At the same time, a noxious mist spread through the air, intensifying the witnesses' nausea and burning their eyes. The figure began to move. It did not walk. It glided across the ground, smooth and silent, as if floating. Terrified, the group fled down the hill. Gene was so shaken that he dropped his flashlight, and later admitted he screamed when he first saw the creature's eyes. At the bottom of the hill, the witnesses were visibly ill. Several vomited. Over the following days, they reported persistent throat irritation, nausea, and skin rashes. These symptoms were later compared to exposure to chemical irritants or even radiation. That same night, Sheriff Robert Carr and his deputy investigated the site. They reported no creature but noted a lingering odor. The following day, Lee Stewart, a reporter for the Braxton Democrat, visited the location. Stewart documented skid marks in the grass and a strange gummy deposit at the spot where the group claimed the creature had stood. He later stated, "Those who saw the thing were terrified. Those who investigated were convinced that it had been there." The story spread quickly. Newspapers across the country ran headlines such as 7 Braxton County residents report seeing a 10-foot Frankenstein-like monster. Within days, the case drew the attention of the U.S. Air Force, which logged it under Project Blue Book, the official investigation into unidentified aerial phenomena. Kathleen May gave detailed descriptions to reporters. She told them it had small, claw-like hands, and its head resembled the ace of spades. Her son Freddie drew a sketch of the creature, which matched the accounts of the others. A New York artist later produced a more polished illustration, which Kathleen presented on the national television program We the People on September 19, 1952. Skeptics offered explanations. Some suggested the witness had seen a barn owl perched on a branch, its eyes reflecting the flashlight beam, with the red glow coming from a nearby aircraft navigation light. Others argued it was hysteria triggered by a meteor, but these explanations failed to account for the size of the figure, the lingering chemical odor, and the physical symptoms experienced by the witnesses, or the skid marks and residue documented at the site. The Flatwoods monster was never seen again, but the case remains one of the most thoroughly documented cryptid encounters in American history. It involved multiple witnesses, physical evidence, and even official investigation by both law enforcement and the U.S. Air Force. 70 years later, the Flatwoods monster continues to occupy a unique place in folklore. Unlike Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster, which are often described as elusive animals, the Flatwoods case suggests something stranger, an entity that appeared suddenly, left behind physical traces, and vanished without explanation. Whether it was an alien, a misidentified animal, or something else entirely, the events of September 12, 1952 left a permanent mark on the small town of Flatwoods. The witnesses never retracted their accounts. Kathleen May, until her death, insisted, "I know what I saw. It wasn't an owl. It wasn't a man. It was something I'll never forget." On October 20th, 1967, at approximately 1:30 p.m., two men, Roger Patterson and Robert Bob Gimlin, were riding on horseback through a remote area of the Six Rivers National Forest in Northern California. Their location was a sandbar along Bluff Creek, approximately 25 air miles northwest of the small town of Orleans. Patterson, a rodeo cowboy and a proponent of the Sasquatch phenomenon, had traveled to the area specifically to investigate recent reports of footprints. Gimlin, a friend and fellow horseman, accompanied him. The day was clear and still. All was quiet until their two horses, a mare named Cindy and a stallion named Goldie, abruptly spooked. The animals reacted with a profound, unreasoning terror, rearing and whinnying before bolting away from their riders. Patterson and Gimlin looked for the source of their horses' fear. Across the sandbar, just at the edge of the creek, they saw a figure moving through the trees. It was a large bipedal creature, estimated by Patterson to be 6.5 to 7 feet tall, covered in dark reddish-brown hair. It moved with a powerful yet fluid stride. Patterson, carrying a 16mm camera, acted on instinct. He fell from his horse, which fled with Gimlin's, and began to film. The resulting footage, shot over 59 seconds, is now known as the Patterson-Gimlin film. The creature moved in a steady, unhurried pace from the west side of the creek toward a dense grove of trees on the east side. Patterson continued to film, struggling to maintain his footing as he followed. It is the film's 149th frame that the most debated action occurs. The creature, having sensed their presence, turns its head to look directly at them. It does not pause. It does not show aggression. It simply turns its head to observe. The look on its face, as visible in the grainy footage, is without emotion. It is neutral, knowing gaze. It is a look that has been dissected for decades. Experts have debated whether it shows intelligence or predatory awareness, or simply the reaction of a startled animal. The consensus remains elusive. The creature walks into the tree line and vanishes. It is this disappearance that marks the end of the film and the beginning of the central enigma. It did not run. It did not hide in a panicked, desperate rush. It simply walked out of sight, leaving behind a chilling question. What was it thinking? The Patterson-Gimlin film has been subjected to more scrutiny than any other piece of cryptid evidence. Critics have often proposed the simplest explanation: a hoax. A man in a gorilla suit. However, decades of analysis have repeatedly failed to definitely prove this theory. The creature's unique anatomy, its long arms, broad shoulders, and powerful unhuman gait, has not been credibly replicated by any known costume. The subtle rippling of muscles under the skin in certain frames is particularly difficult to explain. Furthermore, the biomechanics of the creature's walk have been analyzed by experts such as Dr. Jeff Meldrum, a professor of anatomy and anthropology at Ohio State University. His research suggests the creature's gait is distinct from that of a human, and is more consistent with a bipedal primate with a heavy body and a low center of gravity. The horror of the encounter lies not in violence, but in this quiet, chilling lack of simple explanation. The creature's behavior was a form of communication. It saw them. It knew they were there. It registered their presence and their camera, and then continued on its way, as if the intrusion was a minor event. The film's true legacy is the pervasive sense of being watched it leaves with the viewer. It is not the grainy footage itself that is frightening, but the implications of the events it captures. It suggests that a large, intelligent primate may have coexisted with humans for generations, remaining unseen, observing us from the shadows of a world we believe we have fully mapped and understood. The film ends, but the feeling of being watched remains. For those who study the Patterson-Gimlin encounter, the question is no longer simply what was it, but a far more unsettling one. What does it know about us?